Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5 a.m. Club. It is a particularly beautiful early morning. There's not a breeze. I can see not one cloud on the horizon. The first light is starting to filter through. I can see the crimsoning of that horizon, and it will steadily get deeper and deeper as the time progresses over the next half an hour. And it's a beautiful Sydney winter's morning. So peaceful up here on the International Passenger Terminal. Sydney is still asleep, not yet awoken to this beautiful day. So what I want to do today is go through and do yet another book summary. In the tradition of Jim's 5 a.m. Club, I just pick a book summary and present it and overlay it with my own experience and observations. And today's book summary is another interesting one. It's entitled The Eureka Factor. The Eureka Factor, by dual authorship of John Kounios and Mark Beeman. So here we go. We've got a couple of ferries kicking off the morning. So the activity has commenced, and it looks like it's going to be another wonderful Thursday. Don't know what it's going to generate in terms of opportunity, but like every day is a fresh, every day is a new, and we just take it one step at a time. So the author of this book summary kicks off with an observation that nearly everyone has an aha moment of sudden clarity. And this aha moment can absolutely change one's life. A person's life can change in a heartbeat. It can change in a breath. You don't need to spend years and years and years of building to an aha moment. It can just happen at any moment. So what this book is going to do is it's going to investigate a little bit more deeply what happens when we have one of these eureka moments, when we have one of these aha moments, and to understand what happens to our brain when you have one of these moments, and how you can train yourself to have more flashes of genius. Wouldn't that be fantastic? To not only have the odd one every now and then, but to be able to train yourself, to open yourself, to avail yourself to more of these eureka moments. So the first formal point to come from this book, from these two authors, is that every seemingly straightforward idea is only obvious after someone else has told you about it. How many times have we heard of an invention or something that comes into our life, and you say to yourself, geez, I could have thought of that. But the interesting thing is that you didn't. Or even if you did think about it, you didn't do anything about it. So the author then goes on to talk about Columbus, the famous sailor, and his 6-egg trick, which is an interesting one, because this 6-egg trick tells us or shows us, expresses in a unique way how things can actually happen in our lives, even though we don't know how they're going to happen, or if in fact there is any possibility of them happening at all. So the story of Columbus goes back to the days when he was a early discoverer, an adventurer, and he'd be sitting around a table with the nobles of the time, talking about opportunities and talking about his dreams. And the people would question him, saying, well, you know, what you're saying is impossible. How do you think you could possibly do it? You know, it's impossible. It just can't be done. To which Christopher Columbus would summon to the waiter to bring him a number of eggs. So assuming there were 5 people in Columbus's company, Columbus would pull out 6 eggs, 6 raw eggs, and he would give an egg to each of the people that he'd be in his audience, who would be part of his audience, and he would ask them to try and stand an egg on its tip. And they'd all try to stand it on its tip. They'd be going ahead, having a go. And what they'd find is it's impossible to stand a raw egg on its tip. And they'd be laughing and carrying on, and they wouldn't understand where Columbus was going with this. But Columbus loved every moment of it. And then they said to Columbus, it's impossible to stand an egg on its tip. And Columbus said, really? It's impossible? What do you mean it's impossible? They said, no, it's impossible. We've all tried. They've all tipped over. There's no way you can stand a raw egg on its tip. And at that point, Columbus said, give me an egg. And he'd take an egg into his hand, and he'd turn it around so he had his tip facing the table, the hard surface of the table. And he would then crack the egg onto the table. He wouldn't crack it hard enough for the egg to break and to dissolve and, you know, splash everywhere. He'd just tap it lightly to create a crack in the shell, enough to be able to flatten the tip ever so slightly. And then with that flattened tip, he would balance the egg on its tip, remove his hands and say, voila, here you go, non-believers. I've just shown you how to take an egg and to balance it on its tip, which just goes to show that everything is possible. You just need to think outside of the square and break the rules, and just change the groupthink. So we too are invited to be like Columbus, to be able to balance the impossible egg on its tip by figuring out, by being curious, and by doing the things that create the environment to make it happen. So the authors go on to tell us that all of us have moments of insight and flashes of brilliance. But you can only get your best insights. This is an important point. You can only get your best insights when you keep your distractions under control. Just think about that a little bit more. You can achieve some pretty spectacular outcomes and results, but you need to keep the distractions under control. Like when we're in the shower. How many times we're in the shower getting ready, and all of a sudden you have these flashes of brilliance. You think of things and things come to you, and you wonder, how come I didn't think about that when I was at work? Or how come I didn't think about it when I was being attacked by my boss or my peer? Now, it's amazing how after the event, sometimes when you've had a chance to settle down and you're totally relaxed, that flashes of brilliance and the most obvious answers just come flooding to the forefront of your brain. So why do we come up with such great stuff when we are in the shower? The author says is that when we're in the shower, we're basically relaxed. We're not thinking about anything specifically. We're distracted, and we have the white noise of the water the white noise of the showering water that helps us. And it doesn't allow us to be distracted by new stimuli. So you're in a totally relaxed mode, and what happens is that your brain is able to connect, even fleetingly, with your subconscious and come up with these magnificent thoughts which are just instinctive in many ways. So what the author here is telling us is that the subconscious, our subconscious, your subconscious, bubbles to the surface, and it leads to breakthroughs in insights. So we need to have a precondition, and this is what the important message from this book. You just can't come up with an insight without having a certain level of precondition. And the precondition, according to this author, is that you need to give your brain something to mull over. As we know, our brains have a thing in them called a reticular activating system, an RAS, and that's a filter. And we need a filter. Our brain needs a filter. Our conscious brain needs a filter, else all the stimuli, all the thoughts, all the things that are happening around us that are being picked up by our subconscious would be being picked up by our conscious, and we'd absolutely go crazy because we are bombarded by millions of bits of information at every moment throughout the day. Even though now I'm looking at the opera house, you know, my body, my brain is taking in so many other things that I don't even consciously know that my brain is taking it in. I've got a fellow sitting behind me having a conversation on the phone, ever so slightly, ever so quietly, but I can hear, my subconscious can hear everything that he's saying. Even if he's saying it in a different language, my subconscious is taking it in and recording it. But what the author here is saying is that the precondition that you need in order to gather significant and momentous insights into your life is that you need to be curious. You need to have created a hook in your mind to be out there searching, scouring the universe to try and find an answer, because all humans are teleological in nature. We love having problems. We love looking for solutions, and we won't stop until we find the solution to the particular problem that we have. I guess one of the biggest challenges that most people face is that they've got too many problems, too many anxieties open at the one time, and the brain is overworked and overwhelmed. And I think I read somewhere once that the brain can deal with about half a dozen things at the one time, and if you've got more than a half dozen things, then what tends to happen is that the brain gets overwhelmed, confused, and you're basically shut down. So that's why when you're in the shower, you can have a moment of, a flash moment of genius, because your brain has cleared out, you're relaxed, you've got the white noise happening, and because you're totally relaxed, the cortisol in the body is being burnt off and evaporated. Then you're able to tap into your rational self and also tap into your subconscious self to be able to come up with the brilliance. It can only be described as brilliance and genius in terms of just that flash moment, that Eureka moment. So the author goes on to say that when your brain, when your mind plays with an idea while you're sleeping, it's called sleep incubation. So when we're asleep, our minds, our brains are going through and processing lots and lots of information. at both the conscious and mainly the subconscious level, I would imagine. And the song Yesterday from Paul McCartney came up with him while he was sleeping. So that's why sleep is so important. It's so cathartic, it's so cleansing, because what it does is it allows you to cleanse out your brain, but it also allows you to file and put away things and to categorize things into different parts of your brain, so that you can be able to release it at a later time when it's of use, or you can just eliminate it completely. So a lot of stuff is done whilst we're asleep, and my mother would always tell me that the advice that her grandfather told her when she was a young girl is, whenever you've got a problem, whenever you've got an issue, don't try and figure it out immediately. Asto, this avgalito maxillari was the advice that my mother used to say, which translated into English is, leave it, sleep on it, and whatever the pillow comes up with will be the most appropriate answer. So one of the challenges that many people face is that we're under time pressure to make decisions and to do things immediately. But a lot of the books that I've read, a lot of the advice that I've come across seems to suggest that if you want to have the best advice, if you want to have the best outcome, then you're better off sleeping on things and mulling over them and doing it when you're relaxed. And basically this process will end up helping you generate the best options, because all you can hope for is to have the best options, and you select the best outcome, the outcome that serves you, that gives you the best opportunity and the best first, second and third level consequences from the choice that you make. So the author goes on to talk about a good exercise to incorporate into our daily lives and into our decision making, and an exercise that can help evoke more Eureka moments is to practice distant and future thinking. My mother, God bless her, my late mother, was a person who would spend lots of time. She'd get up early in the morning, and hence I probably channel a lot of her abilities through my 5 a.m. club, through my ability to get up in the morning and to articulate and to talk about things which are fairly deep and fairly interesting. My mother used to get up early in the morning, make herself a coffee, and to think about things and try and map out in her mind the possible outcomes. And that was definitely one of her strengths, to be able to be a future thinker, to try and work out well in advance what the possible outcomes may be, and then to test her hypothesis with what actually works out. And that way you build your decision muscle, you build your thinking muscle. So the authors here go on to say that flashes of genius come through non-conformity thinking. We need to be able to imagine distant events and let our thoughts drift into the faraway future. And you'll be surprised at how creative you can actually be. So there you go, another book, another day. I'm well on my way to reaching 1,500 vlogs and being one of the most prolific vloggers in the world on personal development material. My focus over the past couple of years has been to highlight and showcase the beauty of this country that I live in, and I will take it to the world wherever I can, and to focus and to highlight and showcase the beauty of all the countries that I hopefully get to travel to one day, and to overlay it with a message of empowerment, a message of OPE, where we take other people's experiences and delve more deeply into them, picking out 2 or 3 key learnings, 2 or 3 key messages from each book summary, and basically dwelling on it momentarily and inviting ourselves and inviting others to go on this vicarious journey and to try and apply some of this knowledge into our daily lives and to pass it on to our children, our grandchildren, to in fact live, learn and pass it on. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode. Thank you for those who have stuck with me. As I said, I'm up to about 1,380 in English and about 60 in Greek. But I really am looking forward to getting to the 1,500 mark, which is a significant outcome given the effort required to A, summarise the book summary, and B, to come to a location which has got an interesting backdrop, and then to deliver it edit-free as best I can, and as I say, to provide myself an opportunity to learn and to provide my audience, whoever they may be, present and future audiences, to enable them to be part of this vicarious journey. Anyway, it's time to head back to the train station. I'm going to head over there to Circular Quay, jump on a train and go to Mascot, and can commence my daily activities. But I look forward to coming to you again from a different location with a different message of empowerment, and to see where it leads us. Wishing everybody a wonderful, wonderful Thursday. May it be as productive as possible, and may it lead us to another wonderful weekend. Enjoy our families, enjoy life, and to be safe and healthy for as long as we can be. Yasas, take care, ketaleme. Bye for now.